This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV.com on a very sunny Easter Sunday. And I'm sorry for the glare, but my living room is basically surrounded by windows, so there's nothing I can do about it. But sadly, the Ultimate Warrior passed away 9 years ago yesterday. It was truly tragic and amazing timing that just I think it was the day before, or at most 2 days before, he gave his final speech on WWE Raw. He was actually able to say goodbye. So it was quite a coincidence. Anyways, I'd seen the interview before, but because it was the anniversary of his death, I rewatched the Ultimate Warrior shoot interview yesterday. And this was from Ringside Collectibles, recorded in 2005. Piper's sleeping beside me, to answer your question there. It was recorded in 2005, just a couple of years before his final match before 16,000 fans in Italy against Orlando Jordan in 2008. So let me give you guys a brief rundown. He was a bodybuilder. I wanted to go to chiropractic school, but kind of got recruited into Rick Bassman's Power Team USA, which was a group that Rick Bassman was putting together, featuring Sting, the Warrior, the Angel of Death, and there was someone else that I don't remember. That was also part of it. Steve DeSalvo was also part of it at one point. Rick talked about it, funny enough, in this that, of course, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm good friends with Rick Bassman now. And he did an interview about the Ultimate Warrior where he mentioned that the Warrior and Sting would go into grocery stores and eat in the grocery stores because they were so poor back in those days. And Warrior brings that up as well. And so basically, well, they learned how to wrestle somewhat. Bill Anderson, who I've interviewed a bunch of times, was one of Rick's trainers. Rick had the idea that he was going to train these guys and bring them to WWE. That never really happened. They ended up leaving and going to Memphis, where they didn't last very long, but they got some experience. Then they went to Mid-South, and that's when they ended up splitting up after I think Sting stayed at Mid-South. And after an argument with Bill Watts, the Warrior went down to Texas. Now, the Warrior did say that there was an argument, but there was never any challenge to a fight or anything, contrary to popular belief. And honestly, I don't really think the Warrior is the type that would ever back down from a fight. To be perfectly honest with you, I know him well enough from watching all of his videos over the years. I just don't think he would ever back down from a fight. So I think anyone that says that Bill Watts backed him down, I don't know. I think it was an argument, and that was it. The similar thing happened with Scott Steiner. He had very positive things to say about his time in Texas. He was friends with Gary. He said, he kind of indicated Gary Hart was overrated. And if he was such a good booker and manager, why was he never in WWE? I did listen to Gary Hart's audiobook, and honestly, it's the most arrogant. I think it's even worse than Hulk Hogan's book as far as somebody putting themselves over in a book. And you know what? I'm doing my own book. It's actually almost done, and you know what? I'm gonna give myself a balanced view. Gary Hart's was almost nauseating how much he put himself over. But yeah, the Warrior discusses he was really over in Texas, but the money just wasn't there. He had friends there. He enjoyed it there. But then he got the call from George Scott to go to WWE. where you know what, he did very well for himself. You can tell throughout this interview he's very business like. He doesn't like the moments other than WrestleMania 6, and like he does talk about the Macho Man match fondly, but you can tell it's all business to him. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can tell he was never really a wrestling fan, and the moments weren't as big a deal to him as, listen, I did this, I made this much money, I was successful, I got in, I got out. He brought up that he started in '87, then 3 years later in 1990, he main evented WrestleMania 6. And you know what? I will say that's one of the greatest matches of all time. So you can't argue with success. People can bash him all they want, but he was successful. He of course had his ups and downs with Vince. He did go to, or he talked about when he left WWE. He opened his own gym. He put out various videos. His workout video is online now. Then he said he was close with the British Bulldogs in WWE, which would collaborate with Billy Graham's story. There's a story about Billy Graham and the British Bulldogs driving with the Ultimate Warrior. Of course, he left WWE. He came back in '96. He did tell a story, and I've heard lots of stuff like this. That Triple H is kind of a slimy person like this. That like they went over their match for WrestleMania 12, and then Triple H agreed to everything. Then he came back a while later with Gerald Briscoe, and then tried to get Gerald Briscoe to change the match around to give him more. And Warrior was like, if you're gonna speak up for yourself. Don't like bring someone else to talk for you after you tell me that you're fine with everything. But that was honestly a decent match. I mean, you don't want to see Warrior in a back and forth match. You want to see him in a squash. Honestly, that was one of my favorite matches Triple H was ever in, to be perfectly honest with you. And I like Triple H better when he did the Hunter Hearst Helmsley gimmick for whatever reason. For some reason, that was my favorite gimmick that he did. It didn't go very well. His father passed away and stuff. Promises were made to him that weren't kept. He ended up leaving WWE. He talks about going to WCW, making a lot of money there. He said he was offered a huge amount of money to go back to WWE just before he went for WCW. He mentioned that he thought the Renegade gimmick that WCW had done, where they had like a guy pretending to be the Ultimate Warrior, was funny. It pissed him off a little bit, but it didn't eat away at him or anything. And he seemed to laugh at the whole WCW thing. Like, I came there, I made my money, and I left. And he said the reason why the Hulk Hogan Halloween Havoc match was so bad was because Hulk Hogan didn't want to like put much effort into putting the match together like they had done for WrestleMania 6. That he admits it was one of the worst matches of all time. Before he went to WCW, he did work for an indie company in Vegas against Honky Tonk Man. And he said the reason why nothing more came out of that was because the guy didn't have enough money to keep it going. He mentions in this that he believes the Montreal screw job was pretty much a work. He said he finds it strange that all the cameras were there for the Wrestling with Shadows documentary so conveniently, and that Brett made up with Vince not that long after, and they hugged, and then Brett went on to work with him a lot. So, I mean, I agree. I think Brett and Vince and Shawn are three of the best workers of all time. And I mean, I fully agree. There's more to that. Then you think, and for the people that say Brett's honest, Brett talks in his book that he cheated on his wife throughout their entire marriage, his first wife. That's not an honest person. you think that's an honest person, you're crazy. If you're out on the road cheating on your wife with different women every night, I mean, I wouldn't call Brett an honest person. Um, he didn't like Nash or Shawn Michaels backstage during his last run in WWE. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This was done before his final match, so and before he made up with WWE. But it's well worth watching. He does get annoyed. Very, it's funny. He gets annoyed with the person keeps asking him memories. And at one point, he's like, "What do you want me to say? Memories of this, memories of that." Like he doesn't remember a lot of it. Like he didn't remember the first Survivor Series. It all mixed into him because they wrestled so much in those days that it was just a job to him. So, anyways, Ben, not sure if the Warrior Rude fight was true or not. That story only came out after both of them were dead, so it's hard to say. Oh yeah, Warrior also admits to doing steroids in this and taking pills. And he says that's just one of the sacrifices that he made to have the success that he had. And yes, he ended up dying young, but he lived an amazing life and he affected a lot of people's lives. So I guess it was worth it in the end for him. Thank you, Cannibal TV. Ha ha ha. Someone says he loves Bill Anderson. Yes, and Bill and the Warrior always kept a good relationship. I mean, people can say Warrior was an asshole. Oh, by the way, the Warrior put over the Undertaker in this. People could say the Warrior is an asshole, but he was on the road a lot, and like if you're on the road for weeks at a time, training and doing the grind, you can be very, very tired. Different city every night. And sometimes you could be caught in a bad mood. So I understand that he probably was an asshole sometimes, but other times there's tons of stories out there that he was a great person and he always let the jobbers ride in his limo and stuff and eat his catering and so forth. So there's good and bad about him, but he is one of the all-time greatest wrestlers, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers. And it's funny the way at one point they're asking about like the people that said was he not a good worker. I mean, I'm so sick of people that say like the Dean Malenkos of the world are the good workers. These technical wrestling matches, which by the way doesn't mean you're a good shooter, just means you can fake technical wrestle well. They bore the hell out of me. I'd watch an Ultimate Warrior match any day over a Dean Malenko match or any of these technicians. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan seems like a great guy, but I have zero interest in watching any of his matches. I don't like watching fake MMA. If I want to watch technical stuff, I'll watch MMA or amateur wrestling, not fake pro wrestling. Anyways, the good worker, I agree with Hulk Hogan on this, are the ones that make the most money. Didn't Warrior at one point the Warrior went on a university tour and I guess talked negatively. I guess he had political beliefs. But if you guys watch his injections of inspiration, they're very motivational and very good advice. But as far as his university tour, which I can't remember if that was before or after this, that was just weird. It was like he was going to universities and just being a total heel with his political beliefs. And that's freedom of speech for you guys. I really don't care. I personally don't care what sexual orientation people are. I really don't. People can do whatever they want. but that's just my opinion. And to be honest, I vaguely remember the hoopla around that time of the Warrior doing these university conferences where all he seemed to be doing was creating so much controversy, and I don't even know why he was doing it. I assume he was being paid for it. Don't know what that's all about. Bill Pierce, there you go. He was an enhancement talent in WWE. Check out his interview on here. He says the Warrior was cool with him. So there you go. Any updates on Mike McGurk? Well, I am doing a DDP interview and a Buff Bagwell interview coming up very soon, and a Jim Duggan one. Mike McGurk, I'll check in again. Must have been nearly 240 in WCW. Yeah, he looked good always. Yes, Ben, he gets annoyed at various times in this. You can tell he's like a present guy. He doesn't live in the past. Oh, here's Piper coming to say hello. He doesn't live in the past. He lives in the present, and he's very to the point. Doesn't like his time being wasted. May God bless you, Ultimate Warrior. I agree. I think Brett likes all women. I think I don't know who Brett's with now. At one point he was married to an Italian woman. I remember the one that he was first married to, the one that he cheated on all the time. When I first saw Beyond the Mat, I actually thought his wife was like his cook or his butler. Like, because I remember watching it, and it was before like the internet was really going crazy, so there was no real previews about it. I just remember, because I think she was in the kitchen in the first scene, and I'm like, oh, must be his cook. And then at one point, I'm like, oh my God, that's his wife. She was. She must have been a good wife, but it's not all about looks. But I remember being shocked at what Bret Hart's wife looked like. Bret might be the real heartbreak kid. By the way, I don't buy that he never had sex with Sonny. I don't buy that for 1 second. With the amount of cheating Bret did and the amount of cheating Sonny did, and then the heat between Shawn and Bret around the time that Sonny was also fucking Shawn. I don't know, man. I don't buy that Bret never fucked her. Not for 1 second. Anyways, guys, it's well worth watching. I don't know who the reporter is that did the interview, but good stuff. And I wish I could have had an interview with him. He'll always be remembered. He'll never be forgotten. Have a good night.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button.